Welcome to Entrepreneurial Reality with Bash. Every week we'll be speaking to startup and scale-up founders to learn about them, their ambitions for the business, goals and objectives. Every conversation is a moment in time, documenting entrepreneurs' current situation with a view to coming back next year to see how they are getting on. Each journey will be different. Each innovation could be game-changing. I hope you enjoy. So welcome to Entrepreneurial Reality with Bash, Series 1, Episode 10, and I'm delighted to have Sam with me.
Thank you.
If you could be so kind as to introduce yourself, the project you're working on, and a bit about your background of how you've got to where you are today, that would be great.
Perfect. So yes, my name is Sam, or Sam Patchitt. I am 26, and I'm here today to really chat to you about the first project, my first love, which is Yellow Label. To give you a bit of background about how Yellow Label started and what it's about, because the two are completely interlinked, so I might as well give you the full spiel.
Go for it.
So me and my mates were in the library one night while studying my masters in Leeds, and it was getting like 12 o'clock, and you're getting hungry, and we literally had the decision whereby I'm hungry. Do I want to go and spend 15 minutes walking to the local Tesco's to buy food, or do I want to carry on revising? Because I'm a hungry, poor student, do I actually want to make that trip and guess? And we thought, wouldn't it be brilliant if I knew what was in there? And simply put, I wanted transparency between myself and the store to make my buying decision. And then we thought, brilliant, that'd be a really neat thing to do. That'd be really cool. Then actually, literally 3 weeks later, we entered a competition about, we had to design an app in a day. And we thought, let's do this one. Literally, we talked about it revising, wouldn't it be brilliant if we could do this? So then we started, and we actually won the competition, which was really fun. And it was only after that we started realizing the problem of food waste. So before, it was about necessity, it's about information, it's about me wanting to see items. And then once we delve into the problem, we thought, actually, Tesco's and Morrison's and Asda and any major retailer is throwing away a ton of food. And by actually opening up transparency between the store and the paying, or the local paying customer, you can start to alleviate that food waste by just saying, there are people out there that will pay money for the food you have in your store, but they don't know it, so they don't bother. And so that's how it started. It started out as a need, and then a social need, and then an environmental need, and then that's how we sort of grew the project from there.
And so, winning the award, building out the application, could you tell us a bit more about the process of building an application? I don't have any technical skills, and for me, that would be a significant hurdle to create such an application.
It took a really long time. We came up with that idea in, I'm going to think, probably like January 2015. I think is, kind of idea inception, kind of eureka moment. And then, we had our studies and we were doing our own thing. We won that competition in probably April, May 15. We then only incorporated the company in February 2016. So, after we finished our studies and we actually decided we were going to go for this. We got a lot of help from the university, and they gave us office space and some grant funding to go and do as we pleased. The funding was very generous, and we were able to just go and do. But none of us were technical. Okay, we were 3 people who are business minded. We were doing international business as the masters, to give you a bit of context to that one. But none of us could code the app. Okay, none of us could actually build it. So we went looking for funding, we went looking for support to see where we could get it from. And that was a long road to nowhere, to be brutally honest, because we were 3 lads, fresh out of uni. We're all, 22, 23 at this point, and no one is going to invest in that, quite rightly. And I'm not saying that like begrudgingly. No one is investing in that project because there are 3 fresh-faced boys with an idea who have none of the skills to take that forward. So it took us a really long time to get over that. It's more like a personal problem. We knew the idea was good. No one was doubting that. No one was saying, I'm not investing because the idea is bad. People weren't investing or weren't taking the conversation forward because we were bad. And it was a big personal problem to overcome. Like, actually, we need to change. We either need to change to get the money, or we need to find a different route to market. And so it actually came about the first time that we took some time away from the company. We decided, let's just do this ourselves. Let's find a more agile, or a more, you might say slower, but a route to market that we can control, not that we rely on someone else coming in and providing all the funding for. So our first app, if you can call it an app, was just a Facebook group, which is obviously completely free to set up. And all we did is we went into our local Tesco's, we recorded all of the reduced price items, because that's what we're dealing with. I don't, poor student wants the cheapest item in the store. I don't really care about the full price Pepsis and, branded goods. It was the reduced price items that we really cared about, because that's ones I can afford. So we just started literally going into that store, writing down on our phones all the yellow labeled items, and then publish them to a Facebook group. And that Facebook group was populated with local students. So literally on campus for the campus shop. And that was essentially our first app, because it was a working product that people accessed on their phones, which if you forget it's Facebook, it's an app essentially at the end of the day. So we did that. It didn't work really well, but it got a really good response.
Right. Did people actually use the information you gave them?
We got 500-600 people into the group, which, for the fact that it was for one store on Leeds University campus, I think is a lot. It's way more than we expected. We thought it was going to be like 20, 30 people. We got well into the hundreds. People were using it and liking it, and we started getting other companies, local businesses, saying they wanted to use it as publicity to advertise their stuff, and local sandwich shops and the like. They used to come to us and say, can you advertise this for us? Because we had a group of 600 people who were active.
Yeah, fantastic. Why stay at just the big superstores? Why not go to every store that produces food that's perishable?
Exactly. I mean, the reason we often get asked this question a lot, why food? There are plenty of stuff that goes on sale. Every single fast-moving consumer good goes on sale at some point, from t-shirts to sofas to literally whatever. We only focus on food because it's the most perishable. You have hours. A sofa will go out of fashion, but it will never go out of expiry.
Yes,
it won't become wrong, as a product. But food does, and especially the food that we deal with, fridge food, which is I think about 70% of the food that we deal with is fridge-based food. That goes out of date within hours, not within weeks. So it's the most perishable. It's literally if it's not sold today, it's unedible and will be chucked in the bin. We did, like I said, that's the only reason we stuck to food. And then, like I said, that extrapolate that to sandwiches, to bakeries, to any sort of food seller. Most of it's kept in the fridge. So anything that's kept in the fridge has a short expiry date, and therefore we can do that. Going back a few steps, after the success of the Facebook group, we then thought maybe we can raise again off this. Went back to our original idea and failed again. We had put a few feelers out there and thought, maybe this is gonna work now.
To who? Who did you approach initially then?
We approached our network of people and said, look, we've gone away. We had this idea and it wasn't enough, so we've gone away and got a group of people that like the idea. Now can we go raise? The drawings were the same, the plan was the same. It was just now we have a bit more market proof that it's going to work, and it was still a no. Fine. Again, that's absolutely fine. We went away and we realized that there are loads and loads of softwares out there where you can build your own app. Okay, really, really easily. And I mean super easily. None of us are technical minded at all, or can really code or do anything like that at all. But there are apps out there where you can drag and drop, build your own service. I mean, literally the one we used, I think it's called App Machine, for anyone out there that it's really, really good. It's literally, you build your app like a Lego. So you literally, functions are Lego bricks, and you say, I want this function, I want this function, I want this function. And then you have an app at the end of it that works.
That's really cool.
And there are loads and loads of services out there that let you do that. Enough so that we spent most of our time comparing the different services rather than finding one. It's that popular. So we just found one that used all the functionality that we needed. Things like location, maps, input and output, little nuances like, do you have to update the app every time you change the information, or can you just release an update and it does it automatically? When you're dealing with fast moving consumer goods that change by the hour, you can't have people downloading a new version every time you release new information. These kind of little features, we had to figure out which service was the best. And then when we did, we used it. Building that first app, paying for the app store and the service was probably £300, which most entrepreneurs can bundle together. If you're willing to scale down your functionality to test a concept, then it's probably the best thing you can ever do, instead of immediately pouring thousands of pounds into app development.
Or you could lose a lot of equity up front by going to an app developer that would take that equity as part of a relationship moving forward, a partnership to build the application for the market.
Yeah, exactly. It was literally we had the money. And we thought, this is the best way. This is the best thing we can do. So we literally built it. I think I built it over the course of like 3 or 4 days, just dragging and dropping, checking, testing, uploading it. And most of the time I spent is dealing with the App Store and Google Play. That kind of relationship takes longer than building the app, which is, it's terrible. Literally waiting for the people in California who work for Apple to agree your thing is the longest process in that entire thing. You can build an app in like 2 days, and you're waiting for Apple for 3 weeks to give you an answer, to give you some sort of timescales. So we went and did that. We launched it, and we started getting a lot of businesses coming on saying, we like it. Can we be on there? Can we use it? And then before we could really test that, and before we could really figure out if this was a good platform or not, we actually then got a CTO in who'd seen our concept and seen how it was going to work and what it would look like and how it was going to function, and say, I can code and I can do it better. So then that was it. So it's like, okay, well, we spent £300 making a prototype that got us to the next stage, and then that CTO was able to build the app for us. Some people may have seen that as like as a waste, because we could have done it a different way, but it actually allowed us to build something and to actually think about not only the images, because every entrepreneur has an image about what they want. They can see it in their mind, but we then had to put it onto paper, and we had to build it ourselves, actually think about the functionalities, where it goes, how it interlinks, what's your user journey like on a phone, because you could literally download it and look at it, and it actually brought the idea to life. So when we went to a CTO, they went, brilliant, I can make this. There was no like 3 weeks of going back and forth, send me new design, send me a new feature list. It was like, yes, I'm down. I can download it. I can see what you want to do. I'll do it better.
With a positive point of view, that you've actually accelerated the time to delivery potentially, because you've already got the framework, the idea visualized in a product to enable the CTO to deliver.
Oh, perfectly. Yeah, completely. And as much as I sung the praises of these, you can build your own apps, the scalability is always going to be an issue for these things. They're not built for thousands of people to use them. They're built for smaller audiences. So the fact that we could use that as a stepping stone to then build an app that was more scalable it worked out perfect for us. We got to where we wanted to be. We got another co-founder in who could build our service for us, and they did, in a very quick space of time. So for us, it was a win-win. And like I said, some people may see it as a bit of a waste, the fact that we never really released it and never really used it, but it got us to where we needed to be on a very cheap path. Really, seriously cheap path. So we went from having no product to going through Facebook, building our own app, to then having our own app, and that whole journey cost us like £300 in like 6 months. So it really it was a fairly good return on our end.
Definitely. So where are you today in terms of the development of the app?
So after we built it first, we then had an alpha test. That went pretty well. That was just like a week testing in Leeds city centre. We then went away and released it again for like 4 or 5 weeks, again in Leeds city centre, and that went really well. And then, it was good, it was built and it was working, but we sort of hit a bit of an impasse with it in terms of the actual app side of things. And it wasn't really with the product that the problem was. Everyone could sort of see the product was working and it could be scaled, and the internal abilities that we had as a team, we could scale it, we could do it. It was more of an issue with the ideological product with retailers. If you build anything that requires input from clients, the relationship is very two-way at that point. So you always have to consider what they want as well as what you can deliver. And so the technology with them became a bit grey and murky, to be honest. It wasn't that it was unachievable, because everyone said it was. It was that some of the things that we needed was a lot of back and forth from major supermarket retailers, who I don't really need to name because there's only like 4 in the country. Yeah. It required a lot of their, not money, but time. And even though we had a product for fresh-faced guys coming to them asking for a lot of time and effort, it was probably a step too far, to be honest. So it was a really big turning point in our company, because we saw that, we had built something. We strived for so long to build the product, and we knew that people wanted it. We had hundreds and hundreds of downloads for it. We released like a sign-up campaign to when it's going to be in your area, and we had thousands and thousands of people wanting it, people messaging us from all over the country saying, come here, can you come here? When you're releasing it in, Manchester and Newcastle and London, and literally everywhere. But then it was the clients that were holding out on us. And so we were kind of stuck, because we couldn't scale the product without their support. Going all the way back to the Facebook group of having us in the store writing the products down, we wanted to make that a data flow, an information flow, So instead of us going into the store, they would just send it to us, which is the only way it can scale. But that was the sticking point, to be brutally honest. That was where we were really struggling. So we kind of had to put the app development side on hold slightly and refocus on some of the other aspects of our products. So going from a company that is an app, a consumer-facing company, we were a B2C firm. We are now scaling that back slightly and being more of a B2B firm. The app had two ends, at a front end and a back end, as all software services do. And we're really now looking to focus on the back end of the service and seeing, because it's an easier sell, to be honest. It's more of the data analysis side of things. It's a lot easier to accomplish and do, and we could start making a difference then, with a view to with introducing the app in the future. But I guess it's just a big change of our route to market, because it's an easier sell to clients. Our utopian vision of Yellow Label and what it could become, what it could do, it's too difficult to sell in this climate. And I can list off like hundreds of reasons why it's too big of a sell or why it's too difficult. Part of them our problem, part of them not our problem. There is stuff with the climate that would mean that people are not willing to take the chance on this. But it all goes down to, again, thinking about our entrepreneurial journey. How do we get this product to market?
Right.
Do we wait, or do we change and release something and go again? It's the same exact decision we had with doing the Facebook group, making our own app. Do we stubbornly bang our head against this brick wall and really believe in ourselves? Or do we say, no, someone's not ready, let's change, and then maybe we can get back to it later.
Right.
So, or maybe not.
There is a growing populace that are getting more and more dependent on food banks and other ways to source food. And in my opinion, I think the immediacy of such a product platform would be very helpful to a lot of people. Yeah. And with the likes of Brexit uncertainty, I said the word, sorry.
I was trying to scoot around it, but now you dropped the B-bomb. We might as well talk about it.
But in terms of the economy uncertainty, what's going to happen to the UK economy as a result of this change? What will businesses do in terms of pricing? All unknown at this point in time.
Yeah, well, I think you have kind of hit the nail on the head without wanting to put words in our clients' mouths. The food industry as a whole is one that's really on the brink of being very heavily affected. Most of our food, fresh food that, again, fridge food, most of it comes from Europe. Most of it, all of our fruit and veg is grown in Spain and Italy and the Mediterranean countries. Ideologically aside, that will probably push food prices up. Hypothetically, if you look at all the arguments, and if there's any export duties on food coming into the UK, that will push food prices up, that will be put onto the consumer. Supermarkets aren't going to take the hit for like a 20p orange. They're going to make it a 25p orange and put it on the consumer, which in turn, if wages are stagnating, which they pretty much are across the board in the country, that means that people's standard of living goes down. And that means they become more reliant on, if not food banks, they become more reliant on cheaper food. So either that will hit the restaurant industry because no one's paying to go out anymore because they're paying for just loaves of bread and milk, or it means they switch from Tesco's to Aldi. Or they have to drop out of Aldi and go to food banks. There'll be a big drop if your income doesn't go up. There'll be a big drop in terms of what you can afford to pay for in terms of your food. Food is a necessity. You can't not buy it. If you think about, should I buy this TV or not, and you're uncertain about your financial future, you just don't buy it. It's a very simple thing. A TV is a want, but food is a need. So you have to find a way to afford your food. And Brexit makes that very, very difficult. It should make our product more appealing, the mass market. But in turn, because of that uncertainty, I think that retailers sourcing out a big chunk of time to give to us that issue when the issue is still unknown. Like if Tesco's knew what was going to happen with Brexit, they might say, okay, we know what's going to happen. We can predict what our food price is going to be for the next 10 years. Therefore, we can invest our time and effort into your service and making it good and useful and getting people using it. Because they don't know, they're risking their time and effort into a service that may be needed, may not be needed. They may need to change their wholesale supply chain because of what's about to happen. So I can understand why you'd be not willing to risk lots of hours at this point in time.
Then on the other hand, each retailer I know, in terms of their data, they're very protective.
Yes.
And working with a partner can be sometimes challenging in exposing that data to provide you with value in delivering the service to the end consumer.
Yeah, food waste is one of the few areas of, let's say, public information or public interest where data is completely private. At the moment, there are some companies like Tesco's is quite good at actually releasing their food waste data outside of their AGM reports. But it's still a company initiative. So they can or they cannot. They don't have to. It's not like in France or in some other countries that are a bit more, let's say, forward thinking, whereby you have to release your stats. More than like a transparency issue, it's a financial issue at the end of the day. Like if you have to throw a piece of food in the bin, you have foregone all income on that item of food. You bought it, it's now gone out of date, and you have to throw it away. So you've lost. That's a cost on your company. And the plight of Tesco's finances have been well documented on the front pages of every British newspaper. So it's in every supermarket's KPI to not only reduce food waste. If you're being cynical, that's because they want to increase profits. There's a causal relationship there. If you stop food being chucked away, you gain revenue from.
Well, that's a byproduct, isn't it?
It's a byproduct, yeah. So do you want to? It's a nice thing to say I want to reduce food waste for a moral or an ethical reason. Realistically, it'll hit the bottom line and it'll make them more money. So that's why people want it. If you're a retailer. Now there are lots of other alternatives. Just throwing it away in the bin. There is anaerobic digestion, I think it's called, where you turn it into gas, and you can turn it into dog food, or pet food, or you can try and give it away to charity. Well, I think that all of those suggestions are brilliant in and to their own right. They deal with a problem. They don't solve a problem. It's like, how do you stop a house that's on fire rather than stopping the fire starting? It's that kind of where do you solve the problem? Do you solve it before it starts, or do you have a solution once the problem is there? So for us, we were downstream. We were saying, let's not waste that food. Let's try and give it into people's hands. Let's put it into their kitchens. Let them eat. Let them, give them the food, rather than, this food has been wasted. What do we do with it? That kind of thing. So it's a shift in food. We'll prevent food waste. We don't stop it.
Yeah.
If there's a nuance. There's nuance there.
Yeah, that does make sense. So we're here and now. We've got the application. It's available, is it, at the moment?
You can download it. It's not live. There is no data going in and out of it. But you can see what it looks like. If you want to download it, and if you want to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, we often post stuff on there. On our website, you can sign up to see when it'll be available for you. But chances are that the kind of front end use for it, it will not be available in the kind of near future. So if you download, don't expect anything in there for some time, unless something drastically changes.
So just staying with Yellow Label at the moment then, so what's the horizon across the next 12 months? What is your activity? What is your plan?
Our plan is to seriously develop the data analysis side of the company. So the 2 points, you have the front end app, which consumers use, and then you have the back end software, which is what businesses interact with. And this is basically a big data analysis center. We kind of pitch it as, imagine like a world where everyone has a different price for an item of food. I might buy chicken for £2, whereas you might buy chicken for £3 or £1.50. But no one knows that. So Tesco's have to put a single price on an item. Through serious data analysis and through bringing in third-party data sets, you can start to almost predict the different price points you can allow for items of food. So let's say that Tesco's want to reduce a chicken. Let's just keep on using chicken. They want to reduce a chicken, and it's like 5:00 on a Thursday. Through real-time data analysis, we can be able to say to them, you should reduce it to this price
to maximize profit ultimately.
To make sure it's sold.
Right.
Ultimately,
okay.
Like that would go in. That's a factor into it. If they want to maximize profit, they keep it at full price. So at some point you have to think, I actually want to sell this item. So what do I reduce it to? Store policy, they have their own algorithms that kind of predict this, but they can't do it on micro levels like a third party can.
That's really interesting.
So we can, I probably shouldn't give away too much, but you can use things like weather reports. Everyone knows what the weather is. This is a public data set. So if you can just add that in, say, actually, it's not, it's really sunny outside, you don't reduce the ice cream that much.
It's very interesting you say that, because I was speaking to, in my old line of work, selling enterprise asset management software. So it's machine maintenance, and it was all to do with the car wash. And they were looking to gather the weather data because it impacts on the volume of cars that will go through their system, and then therefore associated revenues that they would get. So they could actually align their human resource, the people washing the cars, as well as the machines and the maintenance team, to be at the optimal lean environment to, again, maximize their margins.
Well, that's the thing, and and these data sets aren't difficult to get. These are publicly available things. You just have to build a system that allows you to access them and influence decisions. So I can imagine with the car wash, it's probably difficult because it impacts like staff levels possibly. So that is difficult to do on not a large scale, but to do in the future. Think, it's not going to rain for like 6 months. Maybe I need to hire one more staff member. But if you're talking about food and there is someone in the store at that point about to reduce the price of this chicken, if we can just quickly tell them, actually, no, it's this price, then it happens. It can happen in a split second. It's not a massive shift in their process, in their reduction process. It's just changing the algorithm slightly, or adding more stuff into the algorithm and then producing the price. This is the broad thing that we're focused on at the moment. We have had fairly successful talks with this side of the business. It's a lot simpler for people to understand, to be brutally honest. Everyone can see the advantages of it. Using data analysis to improve your processes and ultimately make you more money is a very commonplace. It's almost expected now.
So with regards to the analytics, then, can I go as far to say it's machine learning that you're looking to apply, those sort of algorithms?
Yes.
Artificial intelligence?
Yeah. Very broadly, yes. It is allowing a machine, an algorithm, to pick up on changes in the environment you're in to then produce a price. And that is on a postcode by postcode basis, adding things like the weather. Obviously, weather changes from different areas of the country. Yeah. You can also use things like traffic flows to figure out, like, actually, do you know what? Hypothetically, there's a massive accident, 6 miles away, so no one is coming this way right now. You're going to have to reduce things more because there's not enough foot traffic going to come in because traffic flows are changing. Or there's a big football game on and there's going to be loads of people coming past. It was rescheduled for Tuesday. Now if you don't have to reduce the price as much because it's going to be more footfall, more people coming in. Again, by using data analytics, you can almost tell what kind of people are going to be doing that. Maybe you can tell that actually there's going to be loads of Bens that go past this shop every Tuesday, and we can see that Ben always buys chicken and he always buys it at 30% off. So don't reduce it by 50, reduce it by 30, because that's Ben's price point, and then he can come and buy it and everyone's happy. So it's just, like I said, it's really microing it down, and a human can't do this. Realistically, it's impossible for a human to make that many decisions at once. So it has to be AI and machine learning, and there'll be a new name for it in 2 years' time.
Of course.
But yeah, that's the idea of it.
Great. So are you getting any of the retailers to partner with you in terms of the development of this? Are you actively looking for investment?
So in terms of the kind of the retailer engagement or the B2B side of it, they are interested in the product, not in the process. So if we have a product for them, then that is grand. But they're not interested in taking any equity or any stake in the company. When you have a marketplace like food selling in the UK, it sounds very naive because we haven't raised a huge amount, but to take money from one of them probably is a red flag for someone else. Hypothetically, will Morrison's want to pay for a service that Tesco's helped develop? Or will Tesco's allow Morrison's to benefit from a service that they've put money and time into? So it's a very difficult environment to exchange money.
And that is a viewpoint across the retail sector. However, from a technology standpoint, there are many occasions where different providers, they can call them frenemies, where they provide services to help each other. They partner with each other to access the end client. And eventually one or the other gets acquired. But it's quite interesting you say that, because the likes of Amazon are moving into the food space as well. Watch this space. That sort of mindset will change very rapidly once they realize that thinking of media, thinking of technology first type of company that services the need for food will certainly make waves.
Well, I think you're quite right, and I do think the supermarkets are slowly realizing this. I won't name names here, but there is a vast difference in the technological ability of the major 8 retailers in the UK, the major 8 food retailers. Some are fairly cutting edge, in sort of close to where American firms are at, where they are. Companies like Target are incredibly advanced in terms of their analytics and what they can do and how they follow people around the store and optimize their experience, changing barcodes almost at will because they know that they've looked at fruit for 10 minutes, so they can sort of change the price at will because they know this person's really interested. But then there are some that are still stuck in the Stone Age. They don't know stuff for a long time. I assumed it would be instant. I assumed that every retailer in the UK would have a very good technological background, but it's not. It's really not the case at all. So while I think that the ideological sort of standpoint of the firms are changing, I think there is still a reluctance because of the competitive nature in the industry to really put their neck out for something. Every retailer we've spoken to has agreed that it has to be a across the board service. No one has asked for exclusivity or a white label service because the scaling doesn't work. How many people actually use the Tesco's app? The answer is no one. They've got downloads, but the answer is no one. How many people use the Asda one, Morrison's? No one is the bottom answer.
Yeah, I don't.
Because, no one does, because it has no use. What is the point in it? I can order my Tesco shopping. It's easier on a browser, so I'm not going to do it off my phone. So what's the point in it? But if you have everyone there, then there's a point. If we're thinking about the app side of it again, I always kind of link it to the flights industry or the insurance industry, where you go to compare the market or you go to Skyscanner.
Mm-hmm.
You don't go to every individual insurer. You don't go to BA and then to EasyJet and then to Ryanair, because you can just get them all in a second if you go to one place. And that's the sellability of it. You create a marketplace for this. All the retailers understand that they need to be here. They need to be in one place. Like I said, in terms of sticking their neck out and actually giving time and resources, they kind of struggle with that side of it. They're all willing to take it and not compete, but they're not willing to stick the neck out for it. So therefore, in terms of our kind of year vision and the funding that we want and we need, we are looking at different sources. We've actually been in contact very recently with a number of international funding sources, where often part of a accelerator or a scalability program, where they give you funding and take a small amount of equity and they help deliver the project you want. Because we're probably looking to pivot slightly on our product or to refocus instead of pivot, let's say, this is very appealing because they know that the money they're going to invest and the equity is going to be built for a very specific purpose that has a lot of international applicability. It's really odd, but being part of these funding circles, we keep getting emails from literally here, there, and everywhere across the globe of people offering us the chance to do this. Now, normally a percentage of those chances that come through are fairly slim, but it's always nice. It's always good to be associated and speaking to and in connection with all these people.
I see a trend moving forwards of tech for good.
Yeah, I think that there's a really nice shift at the moment that's kind of prequeling consumer mentality of I want my product to be good. That's all well and good, but with big companies there is always a financial element. There has to be. I'm not being cynical here. There has to be. They make money. This is what a company does. I'm setting up companies to make money. Yes. I'm not some sort of mega charitable philanthropist here. I'm trying to make money for myself. But there's a really good wave at the moment of companies that are bridging the gap between doing good and making money. And I've listened to loads of really interesting talks. It's almost like capitalism 2.0 is the kind of broad ideology around it, where everybody profits. It's that kind of social enterprise, but not the legally binding social enterprise. It's the looser, more acceptable term whereby I make money, my clients make money, the people who buy my service get profit and get reward from it, profit and value in terms of not money, but in terms of they are happy with the product, and everybody wins. Suppliers are happy, demand side is happy, everyone is happy. There is no loser here. There is no glum-faced factory worker getting paid pennies for the hour. No one is getting enslaved by the process. Everyone is happy. And so that is the kind of the broader way that I think especially Western societies are moving towards that. If you can be seen as a nice company, you can make big strides in terms of your brand and what you're doing for the world. And as consciousness changes, that'll put you above other people.
Okay. So for the benefit of potential investors, how are you looking to monetize the B2B element you're looking to build?
Well, there are several ways in which this could be monetized. If anyone's out there that has really nice ideas about this stuff, then please hit me up and get in contact with me, because there are many ways in which you can monetize this kind of platform. There could be a really, really nice way where it's almost a pay-as-you-go access terminal. Every time that you want to reduce the price of an item of food, you pay a tiny amount, but you can access our enormous data banks that have enormous historical and accurate and real-time data, and it will tell you the best price. So it's almost like a pay-as-you-go, I need to reduce this. Okay, done. I now have the best price for it. Or you just scale that out and you just pay for a license. You pay for access to this data bank forever or per year. That's the way we'd probably need to monetize it that way. The app side of things, we had a very different monetization model. But this one, when you're building a pure data science service, you sell access. You can't really sell You're not selling the product there.
That's good. That's good to hear, and I'm sure they will change or develop over time.
Oh, completely.
Great.
This is kind of early stages, and this is we're all like 26. We're not, we're always open for ideas on how to change this. So this is just the first idea of how we can monetize this and kind of make it a success.
Brilliant. So you come back next year.
Yeah.
You would have received funding from, and you found and received funding from a partner, an investment partner. You've developed your product to a point where you've acquired a number of key early stage customers with a view to then maybe going for an additional funding round, or would you be profitable by then? What's your ambition?
I guess it would depend greatly on the clients as whether we were profitable or not. We have spoken to lots and lots of potentially very big clients about this. When you're building like these kind of data analysis platforms, most of the costs are sunk up front. The kind of maintenance of this is really quite low, really low. When you're using AI, not using man hours, you're basically just paying for hosting support, which is on a kind of need-to basis. So as long as you're pricing yourself more than the cost of hosting service, you're making money. In terms of like additional funding rounds, that might be to scale or to release into new markets. But with this idea and kind of all the other businesses that I really like, the distance to profitability is fairly short, and that is to me quite important, because as much as I adore companies like Uber, I really can't understand how these companies go 10 years making a loss every year and just needing more funding rounds and more funding rounds and more funding rounds. That delivery doesn't appeal to me. I quite like build a product that you can charge more than it costs to produce. In a year, 2 years. I expect that if we started getting clients by this time next year, that we would be profitable at that point. Maybe not the same as the venture, but in terms of the day-to-day running of the company, we'd be profitable.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I agree totally. Yeah. The acceleration of producing a product, going to market, realizing revenue, why not speed up the point in which you become profitable as well?
Yeah.
And maintaining a lean methodology.
Yeah, I literally don't see the point in planning for future funding rounds. Funding rounds should be for a purpose, not to continue. If you're saying, right, we'll raise this much now, and then in 2 years' time we'll raise another amount because we'll be about to end, that pot of funding will about to end. That doesn't appeal to me. You're constantly living life on the breadline. You're always relying on someone else to scale your product. It goes all the way back to our kind of decisions in us taking our product for ourselves and us creating the app and us doing the work for ourselves. We're not relying on someone else at that point.
Yeah.
We want to do it ourselves and becoming profitable as early as possible, even if it's like £1. Even as long as you're covering your business costs with the revenue you're making, that's enough. That's enough to start scaling and building and growing, and then thinking, okay, I've made £1 this month. How do I make 2? How do I make 3? How do I make 4?
This is after you've paid yourself, of course, because you need to feed yourself too.
Yeah. There is probably wages, the first thing that's going to come out of that profit. But that's the really fun thing. How do I take £1 and make it 2? In terms of profit, rather than, okay, well in 6 months' time we'll raise again. And that's how I pay myself, by just continually raising money and just going through that vicious cycle over and over and over again. It could be a personal thing, maybe it's shared by yourself, but that's the way I like to run my companies.
Oh, that's good to hear. Could you tell me a little bit more about some of the lessons you've learned to date, some of the challenges you may be facing even now that you could share with the listeners?
The amount of the lessons you can learn and take are really are endless, to be honest. And I'm sitting here in front of you. I'm like 26. I've not learned half the things that I need to learn on this kind of journey before. I would always say to anyone is, like what we did, is try and do things as cheaply as possible. If you're going to fail quickly and fail cheaply. Don't pour your heart and soul and savings and family's future into something that may not work. It may work, but if you've done the due diligence and if you've done the market research and you've spoken to customers and kind of know that if you build it, they will come. If you've done that, then perfect. Pour as much money as you need to, as long as the figures match up. But if you're going to fail quickly, and that's something we didn't do for the first year, that's something we had to learn. We were just sitting there trying to learn our kind of journey and figure out really where we were going. We were scared to build a product, essentially, because we were scared of what people will think. We're scared that we were going to fail. That's the heart of it, of the problem. You're scared you're going to fail. And I've worked with other businesses before, and I work with businesses right now, why that is still the biggest stumbling block, is failure. In our society, it's different in America. It's very different in America, but in Britain and in, I think, Europe more generally, failure is a really bad thing. Like going bankrupt is seen as, like having a curse on yourself and your credit rating going forward and your ability to buy a house and start a family. It's a black cross across your record. In a business, it really shouldn't be. Like, failing is fine. Failing is good as long as you learn from it. If you can say, I failed because, that's really powerful. And you can take all those lessons to your next venture or just life lessons. As long as you learn from your mistakes, that is fine. So I would say the biggest thing I've learned is don't be scared to fail. An idea can be rubbish. Most ideas are. I've had, everyone has ideas in the shower. Most of them are rubbish.
Yeah,
you just don't shout about it and admit it. And it can be really, everyone talks about, share it with your family and friends. And that is almost the most difficult thing, because these are your peers. These are people you care about that really like you, But if they say it's brilliant, then speak to the next person, speak to the randomer on the street. Is it good or bad? And if they say yes, it's good, then it's a definite yes. If they say no, okay, fine. Speak to the next person. Like, really don't be scared of no's and failures, because you can learn. As long as you learn why, that's better for you as a person, as an individual moving forwards.
To the detriment of my family, I share many ideas, and it's got to a stage where it's like, I've got an idea, and they go, "Oh, here we go again."
Everyone sit down.
Yeah.
Go pour a brew out.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, so one of the lessons was around not fearing failure, fail fast, fail cheaply.
Uh-huh.
There's an area of learning that I'm focused on, and that is building out a business and establishing the right partners in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So has there any sort of experiences that you've come across to date where early doors it may not necessarily been the right people in the business?
Yeah, you're definitely going to get that. It depends what side of the fence you're on. I was both lucky and maybe you might say unfortunate, in the sense that with You're the Label, we set it up as 3 people on the same uni course, so we all had very similar skill sets, which is sort of a negative. If you're looking at building a company, you want 3 people who have a very, very different skill sets, very different interests. You want someone who's good at marketing, someone good at tech, someone's good at business, B2B, someone's good at finance or legal. The plethora of options. We were all fairly similar in terms of our skill set. We were all friends, which sort of helped in the first instance and helped us sort of grow and talk quite openly about the idea, but we were all similar. So again, we're going all the way back to, we were 3 guys pitching to, the UK's biggest food retailers. It doesn't look good when you have 3 carbon copies sitting in front of you. You don't have a team. You have 3 co-founders who are all the same person, 3 clones. So in that sense, it was bad. But I know from speaking to a lot of like sole traders and people who start the idea on their own, getting people in is very, very difficult, because it's only ever been your internal soundbox that has had these ideas, and they're only ever banging around the inside of your head. And so anyone who comes in at that point can be considered an outsider, and you're attacking my brainchild, my love. I'm going to say no. But in actual fact, they probably had a really good idea. You just haven't listened to them because you've been so focused on it's mine, it's mine, it's mine, it's mine, it's just me, that you fail to consider outside opinions. So there is no there's no right or wrong answer here. There is no perfect path. Ideally you would find people, you probably find people who were all slightly different to you, with different opinions, different viewpoints, that all had different skill sets. But in reality, that's it's really hard to do. How do you find these people? Where do you go? Are they free? Are they available? Will they put the time in? Are they as good as they say they are? Do you get on with them? Do you need to get on with them? There are so many questions. If you're happy working with that person and you think that person offers value, then it's probably good enough. But saying that, to contradict myself about the 5th time in this paragraph, the fact that we were friends, that when we started out the company, meant that we could have very, very long arguments with each other. Because we're friends, we were able to just have big arguments, then go to the pub after it, which was quite nice. It's quite helpful. But because we were so familiar with ourselves, and we were just like, I disagree. And, we were all 26-year-old lads. We do have egos. As much as I try and be as humble as possible, when you get into a room, you bring your ego with you. And even if you don't think the person's idea is good or it's valuable, you own part of that company. You either have to share your opinion, or you potentially watch your company become something you don't want it to, and to the detriment of everyone in that room. So you have to argue, you have to shout, you have to disagree with people. But that's part of the problem, or part of the solution, more rather. It depends what side of the fence you sit on. So it really depends on how you like working. If you like working on your own, don't like other people's opinions, and you can function on your own, don't look for co-founders unless you really need to. But if you don't have all the solutions, then do it. It really is down to, I guess, yourself as a business owner. What do you like doing? It's your company. You have the majority shareholding. Do you need people? Okay, go find the people. Do you not need people? Okay, don't bother. And it's as simple as that. It has to be your decision. There's there is no right or wrong or perfect path. Yeah.
And it's interesting you say that, because I read a story recently. Now it's been around for quite a while. A technology company where there were 3 founders. One decided to leave early and sold their shares for a BMX bike.
Oh, really?
And it turned out that the company then grew to a point where it sold, and they exited at 170 million.
Wow. Okay.
Pounds, bought by Microsoft.
Okay.
So his shares, from not wanting to put the grind and effort in up front, taking the BMX and doing something else, has cost him 25 million pounds.
Yeah.
So if you look introspectively, if it's a collective, a good idea, focus on working together to achieve that main objective.
Yeah, that's a really nice point. I guess I just got to hope that the guy really needed a bike. You know, maybe it was Tony Hawk. You know, maybe that was Tony Hawk, and he's gone to make a very successful career with his BMX. I doubt it. But I think that's a really crucial point. As long as everyone is pulling in the same direction, and you can all collectively, you know, hive mind envisage the future, then you have to put your petty egos aside, and you say, okay, fine, I'll give a bit and I'll take a bit, and we can work towards that aim. But it's when you have fundamental differences with how the company is running, in which sometimes you have to say, yes, you know, I'm more than happy to go, or I'm going to force you to go. more, you know, maybe more to the point. You know, what was it like? 12 people founded Facebook, but you only ever remember one. You know, so something went on through Facebook's journey that meant that Mark Zuckerberg is the only one that people care about.
But I wouldn't mind being number 2 or 3.
Oh,
Facebook,
no, not at all.
You know
No, not at all. You know, but it's like everyone has their own exit point, whether it's tomorrow or it's in 5 years' time. It all depends on your personal situation, your business situation. Like, you know, again, don't be afraid to just walk out of a business because it's not working for you. You might think that it's got a great future, but if you're not willing to spend 3 years getting to that point, you're either going to drag everyone down or make everybody's shares worth nothing. So just like, if it's right for you, then just kind of do it. You have to be very honest with yourself at these points.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So are there any particular sources of knowledge that you go to?
It's probably going to sound a bit contradictory and wrong, but I don't really like reading books about business. It's a very personal thing, but I spend a lot of my time reading anyway, emails or documents or doing stuff that sometimes the idea of ending the day and then reading about business, sometimes I just like, nah, not today. So I would consider myself a continual learner. I really would, but I try and find other ways to do it. So Exhibit A, I listen to podcasts, which is really good. It's like you don't have to concentrate to learn, which is I like that. You don't have to really concentrate. Or you do things like take Udemy courses, you know, watch TED Talks, you know, all these little things where you can learn, but not concentrate. You know, It's almost like tacit learning, or like, you know, almost like osmosis through your ears. There are definitely books out there that I would say, you know, go read. If you haven't read, you know, The Lean Startup by Eric Rice, I think it is, then, you know, go and read an excerpt of that. You know, it's a big long book, don't bother reading it all. But, you know, read a summary, because you can summarize it in like 2 sentences, to be honest. You can keep learning, but when I clock off at like 8 o'clock at night, I'm not in the mood to read a book.
And the biggest way of learning is failing and learning from the mistakes and
exactly, I've got half the ideas that I've brought into the kind of projects I'm working on have come from, or have originated from, like podcasts and just like and Udemy courses and just learning and you know, doing. Like most people, no one is the finished article, you know, at the end of the day. So if you're not willing to keep learning, then you're going to get to a point. I guess what I'm trying to say is like, find a way of learning that's right for you. If it's books, brilliant. I bet there's a billion really, really good business books out there that you should do. I'm just not happy to do that. So I try and, like I said, I listen to podcasts and watch videos instead.
Great, thank you. So is there anybody in particular that inspires you?
If he shut his mouth a bit more, I would say Elon Musk, because as much as it's a very difficult point, in that I can't think of many really, really successful business people that I actually like as a human. You know, everyone used to idolize Mark Zuckerberg until he appeared in front of Congress and was like a lizard robot. But you know, the work they do is really inspirational. You know, so it's where do you take that inspiration from? You know, going all the way back to Elon Musk, you know, his investments and the work he does with his, not necessarily like Tesla. Well, Tesla's pretty good, but in his other companies, is it solar energy, his other company, or the solar power companies that he runs, the way they're trying to turn like roof tiles into solar panels and make them like almost see-through, so turn it into glass. And then, you know, that as as an aim is absolutely amazing. Put all the money you can behind that, that, because if you could solve that issue, then electricity will become free.
So Sam, what would you do differently knowing what you know now?
What would I do differently? I would put a lot more of my time into figuring out solutions rather than being worried about problems. So to go all the way back to the start of our kind of entrepreneurial journey, like I said, we spent sort of a year banging our head about trying to do the product the perfect way. And it took one of our co-founders to spend a bit of time away from the company to then give us sort of a fresh insight. We kind of just like refused to jump that hurdle. We thought, no, we're right. So what I would do differently is I would just say, it's almost as soon as you hit a hurdle, how do you solve it? Don't just say, my answer's right. Do you think, okay, assume you're not right and figure out a way of how to change that? And yes or no, next, yes or no, next, yes or no, next. Like I would never, the business essentially stagnated, I think, for a while. While we were looking for investment and trying to do all that stuff, we weren't moving forwards. We were standing still and assuming that the right path was going to eventually come to us. So knowing what I know now, I would never let my business stand still. I would say, right, hit a hurdle. How big is it? You have to analyze how big that hurdle is. Can I overcome it? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Do it. No. Okay. Find a solution, solve the problem and then go out and do it.
Great. Thank you, Sam. So time is up for this part of our conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. For the benefit of the listeners, we're going to talk about another venture, as entrepreneurs have multiple fingers in multiple pies. Excuse the expression. But we'll talk about that in the next podcast. I'll see you there.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
So what do you think? We'll have another interesting story to dive into next week. Looking forward to it already. Some questions to you in the meantime. What is your story? What is your reality right now? And what are you working towards? Let me know. So you can connect with me on Twitter. Just type in Bash in the search and you'll find me. So Bash, B-A-S-H. Easy. On Instagram, it's Bash Reality. So that's Bash_reality. And on LinkedIn, Benjamin Ashmore. Make sure you subscribe, and until next week, cheers.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.